super thrilled we won. We needed a win in a bad way. It was a really hard-fought game. Both teams guarded at a high level, and was a super physical game. Felt like we had a lot of great looks that we typically make. We didn't, but we found a way to stay tough in those moments defensively, and I give our guys a lot of credit because there's never harder to get excited about playing defense than right after you just missed an open shot. So it was a great win for us.
Coach, congrats on the win. After two rather ugly losses on the road, how did it feel to come home and finally pick one up?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we needed to win. I don't know that they were ugly. I mean, with Nebraska, beat Oregon State is the same score they beat us to, and we came into today. I didn't say anything to the team about this because I don't want to make excuses and give us an out because I don't think that's positive. But when the game tipped off, we played the 14th hardest schedule in the country out of 362 teams. So when you play the 14th hardest schedule in the country, you're not going to be favored in those games necessarily. You don't get a great whistle because you go to Big Ten school, you go to A-10 on the road, and so you got to play above it, and we didn't do enough to play above it. The Tyler thing hurt us more at Nebraska than it did today, and I love Tyler, and Tyler's a huge key of our program. I mean, couldn't love a guy anymore, and I love Tyler Stevenson more. But today, coming in the game, at least we practiced for 3 days. The Nebraska game, he got pulled out in two-line layups 20 minutes before tip-off. So we didn't go into that game expecting him not to play, so there's no way anybody was prepared for what they were going to be asked to do. So I didn't really feel they were ugly. I was disappointed with our defensive rebounding and super worried about it today because that's a team that lives on the offensive glass. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. And we were able to hold them to 7 offensive rebounds on a night where they missed a lot of shots. We missed a ton of shots too, but we were able to block them out, and I give our guys a ton of credit. So I couldn't be more excited because it's easy to, you score 75, 80 points, you win, everybody feels good. As a coach, this one's more gratifying because we showed some real resilience and some toughness.
Mm-hmm. And that leads into my next question. So this is the first game that you're really not playing up or down a level this season so far. So how do you feel like you guys fared finally kind of playing a team that's more so on your level? Yeah,
I mean, listen, they're picked to win the MAC. They're going to have a 50% chance going to the NCAA tournament. It's either going to be them or it's going to be Iona. And they were the preseason pick. They got 2 first-team all-conference players. They would be a good CAA team. They kind of play like Towson. They beat you up, and they're really physical. They're super well coached, and I mean those guys, like the physicality of that game was high level. So look, I think we're a team that can compete for a championship. I know they're a team that thinks they can compete for a championship, and the crowd was great too. I do want to say that because we didn't give them a ton to cheer about with our shooting, but they stayed engaged and stayed into it, and I thought it gave us a lift down the stretch when we had some huge defensive plays with some steals.
Yeah. So what's glaring in the box score is 1 for 19 from 3. What's your diagnosis of that?
Yeah, I mean a ton of missed shots. I mean, listen. We're going to make shots. We got guys that are veteran that have played a lot and made shots their whole career. They're not going to turn into bad shooters. I think it's a combination. The travel last week, that's a real thing now. Like we played in Pittsburgh, then we spent a travel day getting to Nebraska. We were 16 hours of travel in a 72-hour time period. And when you're talking about big bodies, guys coming off season-ending or season-preventing injuries that haven't gotten like their body in that game shape, so to say, you get folded up on a middle seat or an aisle seat on a flight out of Chicago heading to Omaha. I mean, I feel terrible getting off the thing, and I'm short and fat. I mean, imagine if you were tall and actually needed space. So I think all of that factored into the shooting. I really do. I mean, we've only been home for 72 hours. We'll get it out of our system. I mean, look, if we shoot 1 for 19 2 more games in a row, then I'll be worried.
Yeah, and so that stretch in the second half went over 4 minutes without scoring. Ryder went on a 13-2 run. What's your what were your thoughts about that run?
Well, they just got us in transition. That was it. I mean, in the half court, they really never got in a rhythm, but they did get us in transition. So it was transition defense, and those honestly, you got to almost see them on film. Like half court, it's slow enough you can tell. When it's transition, we don't have a man in transition, so it's difficult to diagnose transition defense other than we've got to sprint back and talk better. So until, I'd have to watch the film, which we will, and we'll get that addressed. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm thrilled to death. I'm thrilled to death. It's as happy as I've been in a couple of years, to be honest, with the performance.
And you got any updates on Tyler?
Yeah, it's just going to be a while. Honestly, it's somewhat day to day, but I mean, he's not doing anything right now, so we just got to get him healed up.
Yeah, well, you got a nice break. So,
yeah, for sure.
So Keenan, you had your best performance of this season so far. And this year you've been relegated to a bench role, but it hasn't affected your level of play. So how have you been embracing this role?
Yeah, I feel like whenever I step out to play, I give it my all. And, you control certain things and you can't control other things. So my mantra is always, I want to control the things I can control to the best of my ability. Being a great teammate, having great attitude, effort, those are things you can always control. So that's always my mindset, yeah.
And Aaron, you had the play that pretty much sealed the game. You took that charge with 10 seconds left. Can you give me a breakdown of that play?
We were switching 1 through 5. I got caught on number 5, and he was trying to post me up, and then they kicked it over. Somebody ran him off the line, and then I just slid underneath and took the charge.
That's all I got.
First career charge? I didn't know.